Sean here from Bullman Outdoors. Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to go over my saddle hunting setup, how I'm climbing, and how I'm setting up in the tree with my platform, my ring of steps. I've been a mobile hunter for 30 years and I'm constantly trying to refine my process, refine the way I'm climbing and just the overall way that I'm hunting. Start off with everything that I'm using to climb in my ring of steps fits in these two little bags. I've got 10 steps to climb in my ring of steps in these two bags, and they're weighing in right around 6.5 pounds. Also in these two packs I've got my handsaw and pruners for while I'm climbing if I needed to cut off some branches, limbs, vines, anything like that. They're easily accessible and really handy. One other really exciting thing that I want to show you this year is in this little bag is everything I need to film. I'm also a self-filmer. In this arm I have the sub 1 camera arm from Genesis 3D printing, and I have my Sony Handycam, my GoPro, all the straps to attach them, everything I need to climb or to film with in this little bag, and it weighs about 3.5 pounds, and that is extremely exciting. But that's going to be for another video. So if you're interested in hearing about that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Don't cost you anything. You can always unsubscribe. I really appreciate it. First thing I want to mention, if you're interested in climbing this way, there's a video at the bottom of the product page you're going to want to take a look at. I'll put a link in the comments below or at the bottom of the video to the product page. You can just scroll down to the bottom, take a look at that video. There's a DIY mod you may want to make before you get started. Okay, I am what I and probably other people refer to as a minimalist mobile hunter, and that means I want to carry the least amount of weight, and I want to have the least amount of bulk, and I want to do ultimately spend the least amount of effort to try and climb a tree and to hunt. I just want to take as little as possible. So this is what I'm going to look like walking into the woods. Let me turn this down here a little bit. You can see I've got the two bags with my climbing steps and my ring of steps on the strap around my chest, and they go back behind me. Of course, I'm going to be carrying my bow. I'm wearing my saddle, and I just have my lineman's belt goes around me, and clip it onto my lineman's loop on this other side. Put my tether around me. It's on the outside, that way when I get up to the tree and I climb, I can put my tether on before I put my ring of steps on. But so I'm carrying as little as possible. This is all I'm carrying. I'll carry I'll have a coat typically, and I'll have in my coat I'll have my release, my bow rope, range finder that may be around my neck, and I'll have a knife or two, and that's about it. Early season I may have a light pair of gloves. Later on in the season I may carry a backpack, but I try to get away from the backpack. If I do carry a backpack, I like to be able to put it up against the tree in front of me where I can put my knees on it. That way I don't have a big bulky backpack hanging off the side of the tree. I think that the deer can pick off those large things sticking off the side of the tree in an unusual manner. Okay, like I said before, everything in this bag, these two bags, 10 steps to climb. 10 steps gets me a little over 15 feet, and I've been hunting a lot lower since I've started saddle hunting, and I think especially with the ring of steps, and it's the same with the platform, but not as much, and that's, you look like a big branch coming off the side of the tree. With the ring of steps, there's no flat protrusions sticking out from the tree like there is on a tree stand or a platform of any kind. Just the little steps around the tree, your feet are up against the sides of the tree, and you look like a big branch coming off the side of the tree, and I don't think that grabs deer's attention. I hunted in tree stands. I've been a mobile hunter for over 30 years, so I hunted out of tree stands for over 25 years. I've been saddle hunting for less than 5, right around 5 years now. But when I would hunt out of a tree stand, when deer would be close by, I would really have to be still and really be concerned, because there was times where they would see something would get their attention and they would see me in my tree stand. And that has happened so, I can't honestly remember a time that it's happened since I've been saddle hunting. And I honestly believe that that is because of the way you look like a branch standing off the side of the tree. So that's another reason why I don't want the backpack there, is it's just a protrusion. And then if you're hunting out of your ring of steps and you need to move around the tree, or one way or another, and you have that backpack in your way, then that backpack's going to be in your way, so you can't maneuver around. So that's another reason why I don't like to carry the backpack, and if I do, I like to put it at my knees. Okay, there is a lot of guys that don't like the single step methods, and they claim that it takes too much time and that there's a fiddle factor. And with the fiddle factor, ultimately that just comes down to you have to learn to use your steps and do things the exact same way, and just get proficient at learning the pattern of how you're going to hold your steps, how you're going to use your straps. But as far as the taking time, where I believe I save the time is in walking up to the tree. I get up to the tree, especially hunting this way. I walk up to the tree, I pull my bow rope up, or out, tie my bow up, slide these steps around, and I'm now beginning to climb. Where a lot of the guys that use backpacks and they have climbing sticks and they have platforms attached to their backpack, they have to take their backpack off and then take their sticks off and get things situated, their platform, get it situated, and then put their backpack back on, and then they have to climb with the big backpack on. And I'm just not a fan of that either. So getting up to the tree and just climbing as soon as I get up to the tree, that saves a lot of time. And then even more after that, my most favorite thing about climbing this way is on the way back down. I'm putting my steps away as I'm climbing back down, and once I hit the ground, everything's all packed up, and all I have to do is take off my bow rope, wind it up, put it in my pocket, and I'm hitting the road. That's one of the things that I used to hate the worst about mobile hunting, is at the end of a hunt, maybe I've hunted all day, climbed down the tree, and I was using full-size lone wolf climbing sticks, 5 of them, and it took a while just to get things packed back up. And it's the same thing if you're using backpacks and climbing sticks and everything else. When you get to the bottom of the tree, you have to pack everything back up, and that takes time, and it spreads scent all over the ground, extra scent. And I don't believe that's as much a factor, but it does definitely adds extra scent when you have to set things out on the ground. So that's probably my favorite thing about climbing this way, is being able to hit the ground and take off. Another huge benefit is you can literally climb any tree that can be climbed. The ability to put each step exactly where it needs to be is really a huge advantage. If you're using climbing sticks and your stick's this long and there's a branch in the way or a knot or crotch in the tree, there's times where it's just going to be a little more inconvenient to have to place 2 steps, basically your standoffs, in one spot versus a single step here and a single step there. There's just a lot more flexibility with single steps and a lot more opportunities to climb a lot more trees, in my opinion. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through just like I was climbing. I'm going to try to film as much as I can. I'm going to climb up and show that, and then I'm going to have the GoPro up with me, and I'm going to show you how I'm setting my ring of steps, and we're just going to go over the whole process. So in this first pack, where I have my ring of steps, I'll have two steps in there. I have 8 steps in this bag, and I have 2 steps in this bag, plus my ring of steps. So when I first start, I'm going to have 2 steps in here to start with. You could probably fit 3 if you wanted. If you wanted to take 11 steps, you could probably fit 9 in here to make 12. But I don't want to try to cram them in there, and I found that I really haven't been using them anyway. So you take the first 2 out of here, and then you have your ring of steps in there at the bottom for when you get to the top. So if that makes sense, hopefully it makes sense. But we'll take our first 2 steps out. Pretty good sized tree. And a good step is about knee high. So this one you can see I'm about 8 inches too high, but that's about how high you want to step, is about 6 inches or about 18 inches, which on a 6-foot guy is about 8 foot. And I'm going to put 3 steps up standing on the ground to start with. But at this point you can either have your bow tied or start tying your bow if you'd like. But this tree, it kind of leans out this way, and then goes back in. You want to climb with the force of the tree, ideally. You want to be climbing on the side where where gravity is pushing you into the tree. Trees that are leaning heavy, I don't recommend climbing trees that lean heavy. I don't really think that you should. When you're climbing on trees that lean heavy, it's a terrible idea, because you can come around the backside and gravity wants to take you around there. It's just not a good idea. You know, learn about climbing the gravity side of the tree. If you're not a seasoned climber or a seasoned hunter, learn about climbing on the gravity or the force side of the tree. I'm sorry, the force side of the tree. And you'll be good. All right, so we've got our 3 steps up. Now I'm going to pull my lineman's belt off. Try to be quiet with it. Another bean or 3 there. I used to like to talk about how fast I could climb a tree. I don't really care to talk about how fast I could climb a tree anymore, because it's more about being quiet and being smooth and being stealthy and not being seen, as opposed to racing up a tree. So I got these 3 up with my lineman's belt. Now we're going to put 2 more up. Okay, our first 3 steps put up off the ground, and then ideally our next steps are put on 2 at a time. And we're going to put about at this knee level. And we're going to want to keep them in front of us. There's a whole slew of videos on climbing with this way, with the silent approach steps. A lot of the technique videos on the climbing with these, I haven't had new technique videos made for the apex steps, but it's the same concept as the silent approach steps. So I will be working on getting those technique videos out, but for now it's the same concept as the silent approach as far as spacing. So again, we have them about at our knee and then at our head. And we'll go ahead and climb on up there. As you step on them, set that step, make sure it's solid. If it doesn't feel solid, you can slide it over. Look for a different little spot, little groove right there. So we want to make sure got a solid spot for the step to set on. It would be the same for climbing sticks. Now we're up and we're ready to set our next 2 steps. Now we just continue 2 steps at a time till we get to our hunting height. It's the same pattern repeated over and over again. The bag's right there, handy, real convenient. Now, if I were this to be hunting height, have my tether, just take that off, slap it around the tree, and we'd be good to go to put on my ring of steps. But I'm going to change I'm going to set my GoPro up here and we're going to look at things from a little different angle. So here I am at the last step. One more step to put up, and then I'm going to put up my ring of steps. So it's time, I'm as high as I'm going to be, but I want to put one more step up and my ring of steps at the same time, because that's going to save a move. So your last move is going to be one step in your ring of steps, regardless of, you know, how many steps that is. It just kind of saves on a little bit on time. So I put this on right about knee level, just a normal step, and then I get my ring of steps out of here and you just kind of bring it up here. Can you see that? Yeah, it's just really convenient here in this pack, and you can pull it out and keep it, you know, quiet. That's where you kind of want to practice doing this part, pulling this out of here. And you know, if you get pretty good at it, I think you can do it pretty well silent. And the ratchet, you want to set the ratchet up right-handed for a right-handed guy. And then just reach around the tree, and we're going to set our ring of steps up about right here. So, and that's going to let us reach our step as we are stepping into our ring of steps. It keeps us close to this step here in case anything were to happen. But we'll put our ratchet on the right side for right-handed, and we just slide these guys around, place these kind of wherever you want them. You hold the ratchet strap with this hand here, and you can kind of let on and off of it to get the steps to move. Move them kind of roughly where you want them to begin with, and then kind of look for the exact spots on the tree that go good, you know, so they're not going to move. The best place likely for them to set correctly. That back step kind of is kind of just extra. Really, you really don't need 6 steps unless it's a really big tree, in my opinion. But I always take them and I just throw it on there. Then we go ahead and just crank her down, and you can make this ratchet a lot quieter if you hold the parts that click and keep this ratchet put on your ring of steps right about shoulder height. That's why you're putting up one more step and then the ring of steps. It's so you have that shoulder height and you can get good leverage to get that last click out of that ratchet, and then you're good to go. And at this point, now you're going to step up. You can step onto this step, but at this point, before you step into your ring of steps, you're going to want to put on your tether, and that way you'll have your lineman's belt on, and then you'll also have your tether on before you get in here. So that's kind of a little safety thing I always like to mention. But and now we're just ready to move up into our platform. Okay, my next step is up into my ring of steps. So at this point I'm going to take off my tether and I'm going to put it on. Kong Duck made that a lot easier, didn't it? Going to put on my tether and hook my bridge in to my tether before I step up in here. So now I'm tethered. I have my tether on my bridge and my lineman's belt on. Now I'm going to step up into my ring of steps. Okay, we've stepped up 1 foot into our platform. We still have our lineman's belt and our tether's still attached. Now, before we step up in here, we want to make sure we raise our tether up, and then when we step up, that's in a lot better position, because ideally you want to keep your tether. You always want your tether above you. You don't want a lot of slack in your tether, but this is one point where you're going to have slack in your tether, but you want to try to just eliminate it as quick as possible. Okay, now I'm still in my lineman's belt in my ring of steps. I just moved up my tether to where I'm going to hunt with it at. And before I take my lineman's belt off, I'm going to take my lineman's belt, I'm going to loosen it up a little bit, and I'm going to sit back in my saddle and kind of make sure everything's good with your setup. My tether was a little short there as I tested it, but I felt that before I took my lineman's belt off, and I can make that adjustment. Feels good. I'm out of my lineman's belt. Now I can go ahead and slide that lineman's belt off, and I'll usually put it around me, keep it attached on one side, put it around me, and attach my carabiner to this other lineman's belt loop, and then that just stays around me. A lot of times these bags, you know, I'll just leave them behind me if it's early season, and there I am, just there's nothing. You know, I may have, well, I don't have anything on the tree. I would normally have my bow hanging here and my quiver I'll put up here and a GoPro and then another camera arm. But as far as my saddle outfit, you know, saddle hunting right now, my theory, if, you know, early season, I'm not filming, there's absolutely nothing with me and nothing on the tree except my, you know, bow hook and my bow. You know, anything else could be in my pockets. And then on my back is, you know, the bag that I kept my stuff for climbing and my stuff for filming. They're both tucked there behind me. You can take one and maybe attach it to the tree right here or down here where you can use it to put on your, you know, for your knees for padding. That's what I'm thinking about. I'm going to try that here soon. I like to try to put two purposes out of things, and those bags would be great. Just put around the tree and use them as knee pads once you get up here, because typically they're empty, especially the filming. And then the ring and steps bag, they're definitely empty. So that's going to be, I'm going to be doing that. But man, if you guys are still around and watching, you're absolutely awesome. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know, you know, what you guys do different. I'd love to hear from you. But that's what, this is it. This is my climbing method. Appreciate you all watching. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't. And I really appreciate it. Good luck this season.